Hey everyone, as promised, today we're delving further into the topic of Hermes with another highly requested bag comparison video. Thank you so much for your time and feedback in response to my last upload where we dissected the Mini Birkin 25 against the Kelly 25. Today we are honing in further on the Kelly 25 to see how it stacks up against the Kelly 28. It's fascinating to think that while a decade ago the most commonly requested Kelly sizes were a 28 to 35, today with the smartphone revolution and the mini bag trend and rise of luxury consumers in Asia with more petite frames, this has shaped an international movement where we are downsizing our handbags. There is near endless debate surrounding these two sizes, and that's because you can't actually commit to a size without also committing to the type of stitching and complementary leather, as together they shape completely different silhouettes which vary in terms of carrying capacity, usability and styling options. Both of my Kellys date back to 2019 and both originate from Paris. The Kelly 25 is in the relaxed retourne style, which means the stitching is concealed within and there is visible piping along the edges, and this casual feel is enhanced by the pairing with a soft leather which is swift. The Kelly 28 is in the structured sellier style, which means the stitching is visible externally and the edges are sealed, which produce these striking lines which carry a sense of formality, and this is reinforced through the pairing with a rigid leather which is Epsom. Both of these bags feature palladium hardware and limited edition seasonal colors. Choosing the right handbag is always about finding the balance between function and aesthetics. So today we're going to be dissecting these two sizes according to 6 criteria alongside tackling price difference. Hermes offers a vast array of luxury leather, with some renowned for being lightweight. From that perspective, I'm really grateful to own my Kellys in Epsom and Swift, as minimal bag weight is a major factor for ensuring long-term user comfort. While Epsom is often touted as the lightest leather of all, it wasn't enough to stop my Kelly 28 being 60% heavier than my Kelly 25. When it comes to carrying capacity, these leathers operate in completely different ways. As a soft leather, Swift can stretch and mold to your contents. Pair this with retourne stitching, which produces a slouchy, rounded silhouette, and the result is increased carrying capacity as both the leather and bag structure are flexible. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Epsom is rigid, which is perfect for accentuating the sharp lines of the boxy sellier stitch, but it yields no flexibility when it comes to packing. As a result, my Swift Retourne Kelly 25 at full capacity can really surprise you in terms of how much it can hold. Although at 1.6 kilos, the soft Swift leather is at risk of being permanently overstretched, and even the hardware clasps feel strained. As I mentioned in my Birkin 25 versus Kelly 25 review, I believe the sweet spot is more around the 1.1 kilo mark, which is enough to carry your essentials and doesn't risk long-term damage to the minimal top handle structure. Comparing the two sizes, you'll notice that the Kelly 28 maintains a narrow frame and offers a fair increase in height. But the change in visual scale is quite noticeable when it comes to the width of the bag, especially considering my Kelly 25 measured slightly shorter and my Kelly 28 measured a fraction wider. So while you'd think there's only a 3 centimeter difference between these two sizes, if you compare the Retourne, which produces a smaller frame since the bag rests in upon itself, and the Sellier, which produces a more striking silhouette as the bag stands proud, then the extent of the sizing difference can almost double. The paradox though is that when it comes to carrying capacity, my Epsom Kelly can only fit one additional item, and this clocks in at 2 kilos. The weight is not comfortable, but I'm glad to say that the rigid leather and taut silhouette feel incredibly robust, so while wearing your bag open is not ideal, I don't need to fear that the bag shape will instantly warp, which was a real danger with my soft Retourne. If you pack your bag carefully like a jigsaw puzzle instead of simply throwing everything in, you can optimize the available volume and as a result add in an extra A5 hard copy notebook when you omit the sunglasses case. At 2.2 kilos, even when you only carry your essentials, it clocks in at 1.3 kilos. It's not light, but it is tolerable and fair considering the medium size and quality construction. Ultimately, I am really glad to have chosen my Kelly 25 in retourne and my Kelly 28 in sellier. This means I have optimized the carrying capacity of my mini bag, which is advantageous considering how feather light it is to begin with. And by reducing capacity in my medium bag, it's practical as it deters me from carrying too much, which would result in a bag that's just too heavy to use. Also, the rigid leather and sellier combo achieve superior structural integrity. So if I do choose to carry heavier items, then my stiff, tightly constructed Kelly can handle it, unlike my soft retourne, which would be at risk of stretching and being overworked. It's no secret that the Kelly has a bad reputation for being difficult to get in and out of. The slim, tapered profile shapes a narrow opening. The integrated top flap, which wraps over, keeps the bag sealed by default. And the interlocking of the sangles with central turn lock, despite being an Hermes signature look, presents a convoluted three-step bag closure. Since the size of the sangles and hardware clasps shrink when you downsize to the Kelly 25, logic would state that the mini size would mean more user frustration. Surprisingly, between the two, it's actually the Kelly 25 which ends up easier to use, and this comes back to the essential retourne versus sellier and soft versus rigid leather debate. Beginning with the top flap in my Kelly 28, the rigid Epsom leather works like an automatic door closer, and you can feel the resistance when you're lifting the flap. You need to actively stretch open the bag for access, as it's too stiff to give way on its own. Closing the top flap and or the sangles always requires a gentle pull, as the firm leather on its own won't expand, so latching the hardware requires careful aim. If you decide to save time and effort by not latching the sangles, likely you'll still find them catching on the corners of the top flap, which you will need to manually adjust every single time. On the other hand, with my Kelly 25, the soft, swift leather doesn't resist you. The top flap peels back effortlessly and can stay even partially open, which is more comfortable as your bag isn't trying to constantly shut you out. The bag stretches open willingly, and the sangles, although delicate, are easier to latch thanks to the natural flexibility of a supple leather. Of course, you can always bypass the sangles entirely if you find them too fiddly by simply latching only the top flap with the central turret. Comparing the latching hardware, the opening is the same height on the sangles, but slightly narrower in width on the Kelly 25. The opening on the top flap is smaller across both dimensions. While the plating is downsized on the 25, the central turret itself is exactly the same across the two. You would think this means the clasp on the 25 is a very snug fit, but thanks to the inbuilt stretch of the leather, you don't need to pull the flap or the sangles much. It just slips on and off very intuitively. Comparing the two handles side by side, the void on the Kelly 25 is enough for you to wear the bag comfortably off your arm, so the extra height on the Kelly 28 doesn't actually offer any extra benefits aside from maintaining the same visual proportions. When worn cross-body, the extra handle height can actually become a nuisance, which we will discuss shortly under the topic of mod shots. The handle width is the same between the two models. By default, both Kellys come with a 85cm long detachable strap. Since the size of the strap and clasps are the same, yet the ring attachment on the Kelly 25 is narrower, this means that latching the optional strap can feel incredibly tight as you have less tolerance. Compare this to the Kelly 28 where it's an easy and seamless fit. Even as the Hermes Kelly approaches its 90th birthday, today it still reigns supreme among the fashionably elite, no matter the changing seasons or cyclical trends. Of course, there's the iconic legacy of Grace Kelly, where styling this bag, especially in sellier, which is the original silhouette, allows you to channel your inner princess. But I would say the eternal allure and stylistic authority of the Kelly derives from its flagship status as the most prestigious and celebrated top handle ever designed. While it did not invent the genre, it is the benchmark against which all other top handles will forever be measured. The Hermes Kelly is this perfect concoction of elegant simplicity with bold architectural form, all whilst remaining classically feminine. A key aspect to the magic of top handle bags is the trapezoidal form, which creates drama through the simple yet dynamic geometry. Therefore, as I mentioned in my Goyard Saigon bag review, trapezoids continue to be the bag shape of choice for most top handles today. From that perspective, it's the sellier stitch which does more justice for the Kelly's silhouette, as the rigid exposed edges accentuate the strong lines of the trapezoid, and this motif of clean lines is reinforced through the proportions of the horizontal flap and sangles. Meanwhile, with the edges folded in on the retourne, the softer bag silhouette breaks visually from the sharp lines of the front detailing. This geometric inconsistency means the retourne Kelly isn't as polished and naturally lacks the wow factor punch which the sellier delivers. For those of you who enjoy accessorizing your Kelly with the signature Hermes clochette and the lock, you may remember from my Birkin 25 versus Kelly 25 review that these optional add-ons are standardized and do not shrink with the bag sizes. As a result, while the lock appears proportional on a medium bag like the Kelly 28, it can look awkwardly supersized on the Kelly 25. I personally don't mind the size of the clochette, as I feel it adds to the toy bag character. The size of the Hermes brand stamping is also standardized between the sizes. The smaller sangles on the Kelly 25 demand more intricate hardware engraving, which really showcases the precision and finesse of Hermes craftsmanship. Finally, comparing the internal organization, both bags share a zipped back pocket. Due to the reduced width of the bag, the Kelly 25 only features one open slot along the front panel, while the Kelly 28 accommodates two open slots. No matter how much fashion theory you ingest and how convinced you are towards a particular aesthetic, the real make or break comes down to how these bags look against your body and how they feel when held according to your preferences. For that reason, I have asked for the kind assistance of 3 special ladies in my life to give you a better idea into how these bags scale according to different body types. Smaller bags are just naturally a better fit across your torso, especially when a top handle is involved, as the shorter the handle, the less chance of it poking awkwardly into you. Smaller bags are easier to protect from accidental damage or people brushing past, as they protrude out less from your body. However, you save on care when it comes to storage, as the stiff sellier structure, especially with a rigid leather like Epsom, resists warping and sagging over time, so will rarely lose its sculptured form. As a result, my Kelly 28 2 years on still looks boutique fresh. Note smaller bags, which look appropriately sized for petite figures, tend to adopt a toy persona on taller individuals, which replaces the Kelly's traditionally prim and proper feel for instead a bag that feels younger and more cute than classic. Medium bags can risk overwhelming petite frames or channel a daytime or work bag connotation. But if it's in proportion to your figure, I believe the Kelly 28 taps into the old world elegance and unspoken authority of this design legacy. It's a size which demands you be taken seriously and presents you as a lady. Of course, the Kelly's feminine elegance is also attributed to the top handle mode of carry, which historically was and continues to be the most graceful manner in which a woman can sport her handbag. As a result, the mere sight of a dangling shoulder strap accessory or wearing the Kelly off your shoulder reduces the bag's formality. While this casual touch doesn't look out of place on a retourne, it can seem jarring on a reserved sellier. The default 85cm shoulder strap that comes with both Kelly 25 and 28 is a very practical and comfortable drop for off your shoulder, and is just long enough to work crossbody if you don't mind a snug fit. If you want more room crossbody, you can order the 105cm strap from Hermes or a custom length from independent sellers on Etsy. When it comes to versatility, it's no secret that mini bags hold an incredible charm which allow them to span nearly the full style spectrum. By convention, a petite size signals the formality and elegance of evening bags, yet when you have a soft silhouette like the retourne Kelly, your bag takes on a dual personality. Pair this with the optional shoulder strap or the top handle mode of carry, and the result is a shapeshifter that can be as young and relaxed as it is traditionally proper. So this Kelly 25 works as well with jeans at the supermarket as it would with a figure-hugging dress at a formal dinner. Generally speaking, medium handbags are for day errands or work commitments and can be considered too bulky to accompany feminine evening attire. However, the Kelly 28 is a special size in that it's the smallest medium on offer and allows you to enjoy channeling the classic ladylike original medium styled famously by Grace Kelly, but with far less risk of overwhelming your figure. Combine this with the sharply tailored sellier stitch and the result is a showstopper which has never looked out of place at weddings or fancy dinners. In fact, you'll probably have the opposite problem where this bag will look too dressy for simple errands, even though its size implies a day bag. While neutrals are easiest to style, I wanted to take advantage of Swift and Epsom Leather's reputation for brilliant pigmentation, so I was excited to add my first red and my first pink bag. When it comes to styling color, it's worth noting that brighter shades shape larger looking bags, so ideally opt for a mini size which doesn't overwhelm your outfit with this color pop. As a result, the Kelly 28 is probably the maximum that would work with a bright shade, especially considering it's sellier, so twice exaggerates the visual scale. Of course, pastels are easier on the eyes, and while palladium lacks the dazzling effect of rich gold hardware, it is elegant through discretion and aims to complement, not compete with your bold color statement. Understanding price difference between the Kelly 25 and Kelly 28 requires insight into two separate markets which run parallel. The near decade-long obsession with mini bags has inflated their resale price, so they almost double the value of larger classic sizes. On the other hand, Hermes pricing scales up with the size of the bag, so Kelly's on the smaller end of the spectrum presents significant cost savings even though they're currently the most sought after. At Hermes retail, a Kelly 25 will always be cheaper than a Kelly 28, and you can see this when you compare the pricing for two retourne Togo Kellys from 2019, which only differ in terms of size. Comparing the pricing of my retourne Swift Kelly 25, which was purchased in November 2019 from the famous Paris flagship store for Versatility, with my sellier Epsom Kelly 28, which was purchased a few months earlier from the other store in Paris at Avenue George V, you can see how Hermes retail pricing varies according to the leather type and also construction, as the neat precision of sellier attracts a premium. If you want to know more about how I scored this Kelly tax-free and how the system works at all 3 Hermes stores in Paris, I've detailed 13 tips for success in an earlier video, which I encourage you to check out. Meanwhile, on the resale market, higher pricing is largely dictated by size, color, and condition, rather than the retourne versus sellier debate. As a result, mint condition pink petite Kellys often fetch the highest prices, regardless of their silhouette. While the Hermes Kelly holds today the status of one of the most sought after handbag designs ever created, when you look back at its history, it's worth noting that the bag flew under the radar for several decades, and even after its famous debut on the arm of Grace Kelly, it again lost favor in the 1980s when a new generation of working women wanted more ease and flexibility, which was more the spirit of the freshly launched Hermes Birkin. Considering the original Kelly was a size 35 in a time where small wristlet purses were all the rage, and the Kelly's guarded flap closure was considered too traditional for the needs of a fast-paced modern world, it's clear that today we're still facing the same cyclical sizing trends and lifestyle changes which challenge but ultimately prove the immortality of this holy grail handbag. These bags sit at the upper threshold of what can be considered mini and at the lower threshold of what can be considered medium, which end up as a trend-proof sweet spot. They're not large enough to be heavy, not small enough to be impractical. They are large enough to command authority as a classic, and yet small enough to wear seamlessly as either top handle or off-shoulder bag. If you love sharp tailored silhouettes with that air of formality, opt for sellier and pair with a stiff leather like Epsom for that sleek architectural finish. The benefits include greater structural integrity so that your bag can handle full or heavy packing without risking warping to the bag's shape, which keeps your Kelly looking new and has that undeniable wow factor when carried via the traditional top handle. The cons include reduced carrying capacity, difficulty getting in and out of the bag due to the stiffness, and that your prim and proper Kelly has a tendency to look overdressed or a bit mismatched against the casual shoulder strap. Alternatively, if you want a relaxed Kelly which you can style casually as part of your everyday routine, choose retourne and pair with a pliable leather such as Swift, which softens the boxy structure. The benefits include greater carrying capacity, greater ease and flexibility for operating your bag, and that it suits the casual off-shoulder and crossbody style. The cons include that the bag will feel flimsier, especially as it gets heavy, and that the structure will stretch and slouch further with time. While the sellier had more cons than pros, especially when viewed against the retourne, ultimately it is my Kelly silhouette of choice and reinforces how there's no better or correct option. It's just a matter of what works best for you. As an architect, I cannot resist the sellier's clean, sharp lines. And while I do know that choosing the smaller 25 size means a lighter bag with more comfortable fit, not to mention cheaper if you're lucky enough to purchase direct from Hermes, ultimately I am glad to own the sellier in size 28. While small bags are cute and playful, it's the medium size which signals classic femininity and old world elegance. Not to mention that the sellier's shortcomings in terms of usability will only be further frustrating when you go to a shrunken super fiddly bag. So everyone, that brings me to the end of another monster review, to the extent that I missed my March upload because this video took me 2 months to prepare. Thank you so much for joining me for my detailed comparison of my Retourne Kelly 25 in Swift leather against my Sellier Kelly 28 in Epsom leather. I really hope this helps to give you some clarity in terms of which Kelly size or silhouette and leather type would work best for you. My baby's 2 months away, so if they come early, maybe I might have to take an earlier break. So I really hope I'll be back next month. Wish me good luck.